Alex Turner's hands trembled as he carried a steaming coffee pot through the crowded Blue Note Cafe in Chelsea. His eyes constantly darted toward the large windows, heart hammering against his ribs like a caged bird. He'd spotted Marcus Reed's black pickup circling the block for the third time, and at 25, he thought he'd finally escaped the nightmare of his past. But here Marcus was again, hunting him down like prey. The lunch rush buzzed around him, Wall Street executives in tailored suits discussing deals over artisanal brews, completely unaware that Alex's world was crumbling with each passing second. That's when he saw him, a distinguished man in his early 40s sitting alone at the corner table, kind eyes meeting Alex's with an understanding that made his breath catch. Something about his presence felt safe, protective, like shelter in a storm Alex had been weathering for far too long. Christopher Harrison had built his fortune from nothing, transforming a small tech startup in his Brooklyn apartment into safe haven, a billion-dollar empire creating applications that protected victims of domestic violence. Yet success hadn't hardened his heart. He'd chosen this quiet cafe for morning meetings precisely because it felt authentic, far from corporate towers and their cold marble lobbies. He'd noticed Alex the moment he started working there 3 months ago. There was something in his eyes, a weariness that spoke of old wounds, yet he treated every customer with genuine warmth. Alex remembered exactly how Christopher liked his coffee, dark roast with just a whisper of cream, and always had a soft smile ready, even when exhaustion lined his face. Today was different. The smile was forced, his movements jerky with barely contained panic. Christopher had witnessed enough fear in his life, especially after his sister's abusive relationship, to recognize it immediately. Through the window, he spotted a muscular man in a baseball cap leaning against a pickup truck, his gaze fixed predatorily on the cafe entrance. Alex had once been a promising biochemistry student at NYU, his research on plant compounds earning him a partial scholarship. That was before Marcus entered his life, charming and attentive at first, then gradually isolating him from friends, convincing him that his studies were pointless, that he needed to focus on their relationship instead. By the time Alex realized what was happening, he dropped out of his program, lost touch with his academic mentors, and found himself trapped in a cycle of emotional manipulation that eventually turned physical. 3 months ago, after a particularly brutal night that left him with bruises he couldn't hide, Alex had grabbed his essential documents and fled to a shelter. A kind volunteer there had connected him with the cafe job far enough from his old neighborhood that he thought he'd be safe. He'd been rebuilding slowly, saving for community college classes, reclaiming tiny pieces of his former self, until today. Christopher watched Alex's anxious scanning of the room and felt a tightness in his chest. 10 years ago, his younger sister had been trapped in a similar relationship. He remembered the calls in the middle of the night, her voice small and broken, making excuses for bruises and canceled plans. When she finally escaped and came to live with him, her ex had stalked her for months. The police had been sympathetic but limited in what they could do. That experience had been the catalyst for Christopher's company, creating technology that helped people document abuse, connect with resources, and stay safe. Where are you watching from today? Share in the comments below. And remember to subscribe to Heart Stories for more powerful moments of human connection. Alex approached Christopher's table, the coffee pot shaking slightly in his grip. "More coffee, Mr. Harrison?" he asked, but his voice carried an edge of desperation that had nothing to do with customer service. "Alex," Christopher said softly, setting down his newspaper. "Are you all right?" Alex's composure cracked for just a moment. "I'm fine, just tired." But as he turned to leave, the cafe door chimed, and Marcus stepped inside. Alex froze, color draining from his face as their eyes met. Marcus's lips curved into a possessive smile that held no warmth as he started walking toward him, his presence commanding and threatening. "There's my boy," Marcus called out, his voice carrying just loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "Been looking everywhere for you, baby. Time to come home." Alex's breathing became shallow, rapid. He looked around desperately, trapped between the advancing threat and a room full of strangers who had no idea they were witnessing his worst nightmare unfolding. "I don't want to go anywhere with you, Marcus," Alex managed, his voice barely above a whisper, but Marcus kept advancing like a hunter who'd cornered his prey. "Don't make a scene, Alex." Marcus's voice held that familiar edge that used to make Alex's stomach twist with fear. "You know how this ends. You always come back." The cafe grew quieter as customers sensed the tension, conversations dying mid-sentence. Alex felt his chest tightening, the familiar panic starting to take hold. 3 months of freedom, of finally sleeping without fear, and it was all about to disappear. That's when he made a choice that surprised even himself. Christopher had been watching the exchange with growing concern, recognizing the dynamic immediately from his sister's experience. When Alex's desperate eyes met his across the room, he didn't hesitate, without thinking. Alex moved toward Christopher's table, legs shaking but determined. "I'm sorry," he whispered as he reached him. "Please, I just need—" "It's okay," Christopher said quietly, understanding immediately. "Whatever you need." And then Alex did something that shocked everyone in the cafe, including himself. He sat down beside Christopher and leaned into him, body trembling as he placed his hand over Christopher's, playing the part of a boyfriend. Christopher's response was immediate and protective. His arm came around Alex's shoulders, steady and reassuring. "Play along," he whispered against Alex's ear, his voice calm and confident. "I'll protect you." The moment Alex leaned into Christopher, something shifted in the cafe atmosphere. A middle-aged woman at the next table pursed her lips, whispering something to her companion. A businessman in an expensive suit frowned slightly, then returned to his phone, but these reactions were drowned out by what happened next. An older customer named Frank watched the scene unfold, memories of his own gay son's struggles etching lines around his eyes. When a couple at a nearby table exchanged uncomfortable glances, Frank's gaze hardened. Some battles were too important to remain silent. "Got a problem?" Frank asked loudly, staring directly at the whispering couple. "Because I don't—" "My son faced the same kind of harassment, and I didn't stand up for him then. Not making that mistake twice." His voice trembled slightly, but his eyes were steady. The couple looked away, embarrassed. A young woman with purple-streaked hair at another table nodded appreciatively at Frank before turning a protective gaze toward Alex and Christopher. Marcus stopped dead in his tracks, his face shifting from predatory confidence to confusion and then to rage. "What the hell is this?" he demanded, voice rising dangerously. Christopher looked up at Marcus with the quiet authority that came from years of commanding boardrooms and facing down hostile takeovers. "Is there a problem here?" His tone was polite but carried underlying steel that made Marcus take an involuntary step back. "This has nothing to do with you," Marcus hissed, his fists clenching and unclenching at his sides. "Alex and I have personal business to discuss." He leaned closer, lowering his voice to a threatening whisper. "He knows what happens when he tries to leave, don't you?" Christopher felt Alex trembling against him, but also sensed a new tension in his body. Not just fear now, but something like resolve. This was the pivotal moment. Christopher knew. The moment when someone either shrinks back into familiar pain or finds the strength to stand. In moments of crisis, we discover who we truly are. Sometimes protection comes from unexpected places, and sometimes the bravest act is simply reaching out when we need help most. "That's my boyfriend," Marcus snarled, though some of his confidence had evaporated in the face of Christopher's composed presence and the growing attention from other patrons. "No," Alex said, surprising himself with the strength in his voice. "I'm not your anything anymore." He felt Christopher's arm tighten protectively around his shoulders, giving him courage he'd forgotten he possessed. Marcus's face darkened, hands clenching into fists. "You think some suit's going to protect you? You think you can just disappear on me?" The menace in his voice made several cafe patrons reach for their phones, sensing the situation was escalating beyond an awkward encounter. Alex felt himself shrinking inward, the old fear reclaiming him. For 2 years, Marcus had controlled every aspect of his life through intimidation and manipulation. Even after he'd finally escaped, he'd been looking over his shoulder, knowing Marcus would never stop hunting him. "I think," Christopher said, his voice carrying the quiet confidence of a man who'd never backed down from a fight, "that Alex has made his feelings clear, and you should respect that. You don't know what you're getting into." Marcus stepped closer, trying to use his size to intimidate. "Alex and I have history, real history, not some fake little show he's putting on for you." Frank stood up from his table, coffee mug still in hand. "Son, I think you need to leave," he said, his voice weathered but firm. "My boy went through something similar. Nobody deserves to be stalked or intimidated." That's when Alex spoke up, his voice stronger than it had been in years. "Our history is exactly why I left. Marcus, love isn't about control or fear or making someone feel small. It's about trust and respect." He looked at Christopher, seeing something in his eyes that Marcus had never shown him: genuine concern without expectation. Marcus took another step forward, his expression darkening dangerously. "You ungrateful little—" He reached for Alex's arm, but Christopher smoothly shifted his position, placing himself between them. "I wouldn't do that," Christopher said quietly. His voice remained calm, but his eyes had hardened to steel. "You've already created quite a scene." The cafe manager, a petite woman named Sarah, appeared beside them. "I've called the police," she said calmly, "and we have everything on security cameras." She nodded toward the discreet black domes in the ceiling corners. "We're an LGBT-friendly establishment, and we don't tolerate harassment." Marcus's face contorted with rage. "Safe, I protected you." "You isolated me," Alex said, the words tumbling out like a dam had burst. "You made me quit my biochemistry program, cut ties with my friends, convinced me I was worthless without you. That's not protection. That's imprisonment." Marcus scoffed, his voice rising again. "Your precious program? You were failing anyway. I gave you a roof over your head, food, everything. And this is how you repay me, by humiliating me in public with—" He gestured contemptuously at Christopher. With this guy, the entire cafe had gone silent, every person understanding they were witnessing something profound and painful. The elderly man at a nearby table had tears in his eyes, perhaps remembering his own son's struggles decades past. Christopher remained steady, neither escalating nor retreating. "I think we're done here," he said firmly. "Alex has made his choice. The police are on their way. It's time for you to leave." Marcus looked around the cafe, suddenly aware that every person was watching him, most with open hostility. He took a half step back, his confidence visibly wavering. "This isn't over," he muttered. "You'll be back. Alex, you always come back." "Not this time," Alex replied, his voice clear and steady. 2 police officers arrived within minutes, one immediately recognizing Marcus. "Mr. Reed," Officer Rivera said, "we've had multiple complaints filed against you already." When Marcus tried claiming Alex was making things up, the officer cut him off. "Sir, this establishment has cameras, and we have testimony from prior victims." The second officer, a tall woman named Chen, pulled Marcus aside. "Sir, there's an active restraining order filed against you by another individual. Were you aware of that?" As they escorted Marcus outside, Alex felt Christopher's steady hand on his back, not possessive, just supportive. The cafe began to return to normal, conversations resuming, though many patrons still cast concerned glances toward Alex. "Thank you," Alex whispered to Christopher. "I don't know what would have happened if—" "You don't need to thank me," Christopher interrupted gently. "You found your voice. That's the hardest part." Officer Rivera returned, notepad in hand. "Mr. Turner, we'd like to take your statement. And if you're willing, there are other complaints against Mr. Reed that would be strengthened by your testimony." Alex hesitated. years of conditioning making him instinctively want to protect Marcus, to minimize what had happened. Then he felt Christopher's reassuring presence beside him and Frank's supportive nod from across the room. "Yes," he said finally, "I'll tell you everything." Sometimes the most powerful act of courage isn't facing danger alone, but accepting help when we need it most, and realizing that vulnerability isn't weakness, it's the first step toward freedom. 6 months later, Alex stood behind the counter of New Horizon Coffee in East Village, watching the morning rush with quiet satisfaction. The walls were painted a warm terracotta, local artists' work adorning the space alongside rainbow flags and framed quotes about courage. In one corner, bookshelves held literature on LGBTQ+ rights and history, creating a sanctuary where knowledge and community intertwined. What had begun as a desperate escape had transformed into something extraordinary. Marcus was serving 15 months in prison after 3 other men had come forward with similar stories of abuse. The restraining order was permanent now, and Alex slept peacefully for the first time in years. The journey hadn't been easy. After the incident at Blue Note Café, Alex had struggled with lingering fear and anxiety. Each time the door chimed, his heart would race momentarily. Each unfamiliar face brought a flash of panic. Christopher had connected him with a therapist who specialized in trauma and abuse survivors. And slowly, session by session, Alex had begun to untangle the psychological web Marcus had woven around him. The idea for New Horizon had emerged during one of their conversations, 3 months after the confrontation. They'd been sitting in Christopher's downtown loft, sharing takeout Chinese food, when Alex mentioned how much he missed working with chemical compounds. "Coffee is chemistry in action," he'd mused. "Temperature, timing, pressure, it's all science." Christopher had looked at him thoughtfully. "Have you ever considered opening your own place somewhere that combines your biochemistry background with coffee culture?" The suggestion had seemed impossible at first, a beautiful but distant dream. Alex had no business experience, limited savings, and was still rebuilding his self-confidence. But Christopher believed in him with unwavering certainty. "I've invested in dozens of startups," he'd said. "I know potential when I see it, and you have more than most MBAs I've met." Christopher had been true to his word about helping Alex restart his life. He'd not only provided financial backing for the cafe, but connected Alex with the Small Business Administration's mentorship program in LGBTQ+ Business Alliance. Their relationship had evolved slowly, built on mutual respect rather than desperate need. Christopher never pushed, never demanded, never made Alex feel anything less than completely free to choose his own path. The cafe had become a gathering spot during Pride Month, hosting weekly support groups for survivors of domestic violence within the LGBTQ+ community. Frank, the elderly customer from that fateful takeaway, had become a regular, often bringing his adult son Jason when he visited from Chicago. Their conversations had helped Alex understand the complexity of family relationships, the pain of rejection, and the possibility of reconciliation. Most surprising was the reconciliation with his conservative parents. When they'd first disowned him for coming out, Alex thought he'd lost them forever. But after seeing news coverage of Marcus's arrest, they'd reached out hesitantly. The first meeting was awkward, filled with silences and unsaid apologies. His father had stared at his coffee cup, unable to meet Alex's eyes until finally saying, "We were wrong, son. We were so wrong." His mother had been more emotional, reaching for his hand across the table. "When we saw what happened," she'd explained, tears streaming down her face, "we realized we'd abandoned you when you needed us most. Just like that man tried to control you. Our fear tried to control you too. It wasn't perfect. Years of rejection couldn't be erased in one conversation. But they were trying, visiting the cafe monthly, slowly learning to see their son as he truly was." His father, a retired chemistry teacher, had been particularly moved when Alex showed him the specialized extraction methods he'd developed for his signature blends. Alex had finally completed his biochemistry degree, his thesis on plant compounds and specialty coffees earning recognition from his professors. his creations, with names like Courage and Resilience, had been featured in local food magazines. The New York Times had included New Horizon in a feature on community-focused businesses that were redefining entrepreneurship in the city. Christopher entered through the front door, wearing a casual sweater rather than his usual suit, a small wrapped package under his arm. Today marks 6 months since New Horizon opened, 6 months of freedom, of rebuilding, of discovering strength Alex never knew he possessed. The usual? Asked a man, already reaching for Christopher's favorite blend. Christopher smiled, his eyes crinkling at the corners. Actually, I thought we might try something new today. He placed the small package on the counter. Happy anniversary. Inside was a custom-made plaque for the cafe wall. Every horizon offers a fresh beginning for those brave enough to look up. When we create spaces where people can be authentically themselves without fear, we don't just change individual lives, we transform entire communities. One connection at a time. Alex held the plaque against his chest, emotions washing over him like gentle waves. Around them, the cafe hummed with life students typing on laptops, couples leaning close in conversation, a group from the weekly support meeting sharing stories in the corner. This was more than a business. It was living proof that broken things could be rebuilt stronger. I have something for you too, Alex said, reaching beneath the counter. He pulled out a small wooden box with second chapter etched on its surface. I've been working on this blend for months. Inside was a sample of his newest creation beans from regions across the world, roasted to bring out notes of chocolate, cherry, and a hint of spice. Christopher's expression softened as he understood the significance. Their story from that desperate moment in Blue Note Cafe to this peaceful morning was indeed a second chapter neither had anticipated. The journey to this moment had been filled with unexpected challenges and discoveries. 3 months after opening New Horizon, Alex had been invited to speak at a conference for LGBTQ+ entrepreneurs. Standing at the podium, looking out at the sea of faces, some skeptical, others encouraging, he'd felt that familiar tightness in his chest, that momentary return to the frightened young man who'd been told his voice didn't matter. Then he'd spotted Christopher in the back row, not saying anything, not trying to rescue him, just present and believing. The words had come then, honest and clear. He'd spoken about transformation, not just of a business idea, but of a person. He talked about how safety isn't just physical protection, but the freedom to become who you were always meant to be. The speech had gone viral in business circles, leading to mentorship requests from other survivors wanting to reclaim their independence through entrepreneurship. Alex now dedicated every Friday afternoon to these sessions, creating a ripple effect of empowerment that extended far beyond the cafe's walls. Later that evening, after closing, they hosted a small celebration. The cafe was transformed with soft lighting and music. Christopher's Safe Haven team mingled with Alex's staff and regulars. Even Officer Rivera stopped by, bringing news that Marcus's appeal had been denied. You know, Rivera said quietly, nursing her chamomile tea, what you've done here matters more than you realize. 3 people have come forward since your testimony. 3 more who might still be trapped if you hadn't spoken up. Sarah from Blue Note Cafe arrived with her partner, carrying a basket of pastries and warm hugs. Frank brought his son Jason and his son-in-law, the 3 generations of their family, a testament to how love eventually finds its way through even the most difficult terrain. Alex's parents stood somewhat awkwardly near the dessert table, still learning how to navigate this world, but making the effort. His father had brought a small photo album. Alex at 8, conducting experiments with kitchen ingredients. Alex at 16, winning the state science fair. We always knew you were brilliant, he'd said gruffly. We just forgot what mattered most. In the midst of conversation, Christopher gently tapped his glass for attention. The room quieted as he moved to Alex's side. A year ago, he began, I was just a man having coffee in a cafe. His voice carried through the room, steady and sincere. I had no idea that moment would change everything. He turned to face Alex directly. You taught me something profound, that protection isn't about sheltering someone from the world, but standing beside them while they reclaim their place in it. Alex's eyes glistened as Christopher continued. I didn't rescue you that day. You rescued yourself. I just had the privilege of witnessing your courage. Then Christopher took Alex's hand, squeezing gently. I don't want to be your protector anymore. I want to be your partner, equal, honest, and committed to building something real together. The room erupted in applause as Alex nodded, words momentarily beyond reach. Frank, now a regular at the cafe, wiped away tears. Alex's parents stood awkwardly near the back, but they were there learning, trying, growing. You know what this means, Christopher whispered, lips close to Alex's ear. You're stuck with me as your taste tester for all your experimental blends. Alex laughed, the sound free and unguarded. Even the one with cardamom and black pepper. Especially that one. Christopher grimaced dramatically. Someone has to save the world from your more adventurous creations. As the evening wound down, Alex stood by the window watching snowflakes begin to fall on the New York streets. Christopher joined him, their reflections overlapping in the glass. Are you happy? Christopher asked softly. Alex turned to him, the question settling in his chest like a warm ember. I'm more than happy, he replied. I'm free. He thought of all the intersecting paths that had led to this moment, the terrible ones with Marcus, the desperate escape, the chance encounter with Christopher, the slow rebuilding of trust, both in others and in himself. Each step, even the painful ones, had been necessary to bring him here, to this place of strength and possibility. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. The cafe needed to expand its menu for the summer season. Alex's parents had invited them both to dinner next week. The LGBTQ+ Youth Center had asked him to mentor a young chemistry student who'd recently been rejected by his family. Life would continue to unfold in unexpected ways. But tonight watching the snow transform the city into something soft and new. Alex knew with certainty that whatever came next, he would face it standing tall, no longer defined by what had been done to him, but by what he chose to create. Have you ever had a moment that completely changed the direction of your life? A second chance that became your second chapter? Share your story in the comments below. Your words might be the exact courage someone else needs today. Don't forget to subscribe to Heart Stories for more tales of resilience, love, and the extraordinary courage of ordinary people. Because every story matters, especially yours.